Welcome back for another episode. Today's guest is not your average accountant. Katherine is an actress turned strategic tax advisor who's built an entire framework, the Money Storyteller Method, that helps entrepreneurs turn their numbers into a clear, creative, and actionable path to their biggest goals. She believes every world changing idea deserves the right financial support, and she's made it her mission to make sustainable, profitable business the new normal. From founding an accounting firm and financial education company to creating an app that supports small business owners, Katherine blends emotional intelligence, mindset, and smart tax strategy to help creators, coaches, and entrepreneurs build true wealth, not just revenue. So, in this episode today, we're going to dive into the mindset shifts that help you stop working so hard for money and instead learn to make money work for you. She shares how her method transformed financial reports into treasure maps. Yes, really. The role of money in building communities and group offers at scale, and what success means to her now as a multi passionate entrepreneur. So, whether you love numbers or avoid them at all costs, this episode will open your eyes to the kind of financial clarity that fuels freedom. So, let's get into it, Katherine. I am so excited to talk with you today. Thank you for being here.
Oh, well, thank you. We've had the opportunity to talk before, so I know today is going to be fun and valuable, and I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, thank you. And I know some of our listeners may have heard your story or seen you around, but I always like to start episodes of where your journey really started and how that got you here. So you talked about you were an actress turned accountant. So can you share the story behind that transition and maybe how it shaped the money storyteller method you talked about?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think this is something you and I have in common is that we really appreciate stories. We understand that this is a powerful mechanism for people to understand things. So I'm always happy to do my story again. I was an actress. I like to say like an artist with a capital A. Like I was the pretentious artist, right? I really liked abstract theater. I was a dancer and I was a modern dancer. So I was, the weird looking dancing, right? And it was a lot of fun. It was a good time. I really enjoyed the work that I was doing, but I was stressed about money all the time. Stereotypically, that community is not great with money. And even when I had colleagues and friends and mentors that were making quote unquote money, they seem to still be experiencing all the same stress. They just added mortgages and kids to the mix. It wasn't adding up. Literally, I was working 3 or 4 jobs. I was working 60, 80-hour weeks. I'm really smart. I'm obviously hardworking. And so why isn't this working out? There's something about money I don't understand. There's something somebody didn't teach me. So if I could figure out how money works, I think I could help a lot of people. And that became my new goal. Okay, I'm going to learn how money is. I'm going to learn what money is, how it is, what it does. And about a year later, I had actually already started my accounting firm because I loved what I was learning. It's way easier than people think. And I really wanted to share it with everybody. Fast forward a little while, and I had clients in one or two, like one of two buckets, I would say, is that the smart and strategic tax strategies and all of the organization and the bookkeeping and the financial operations that we were doing was really, really helping some clients. They were fun to work with. It was energizing to be in conversation with them. I really understood how we were helping them make an impact in their business and with their work. But then I had other clients that they had all the same strategy, all the same organization. And even if their external circumstances changed, their internal experience stayed as chaotic as ever. And I realized that I wasn't yet done. There was something else about money that needed to be solved. So I'd understood some level of it, but there was something else that wasn't helping all of my clients change their experience the way I had changed my experience. And then I kind of got curious about my own story. Wait, yeah, this is about an experience change. And now this is a podcast. So if you can't like watch me, I'm like, I'm a little cute little blonde over here, just like an actress, no formal training in this, totally self-taught, more business than I can handle, more referrals than I can handle, other people in my industry telling me I'm really good at this and I'm the best they've ever seen. And just like, okay, that's a weird story. So how is it that when this used to be the greatest source of stress in my life, that now money is truly the love of my life? I enjoy this work so much. And I started to think about, well, what is it about money that I enjoy so much? And I realized that the experience of working with financial reports was the same as being in rehearsal. It was the same way of coming together with really smart people and using all of our talents and our resources to tell a really coherent, beautiful story. And when I realized that, I wondered if I could use my storytelling training to help my clients make better sense of their money. And the answer was yes, I can actually use storytelling as a medium to teach you how money works. And when I got that, oh, we're really off. This was the secret that I think a lot of people are missing. And so that's really what we do now is that, you know, everyone likes to talk AI, right? And as more and more and more of the like bookkeeping parts of money, of keeping it organized, of even building out the reports are more and more automated, I love that. We still need to understand how to structure that information for ourselves so that we get the right story back. And we need to know how to analyze it and make sense of it and make sure it's done right. And that requires a bigger methodology, a more holistic methodology that ties the activities in our business to making money, that ties what we want to where we're spending our effort, where we're spending our dollars. So I'm gonna I'm gonna go off on a little rant here. So I'll cut myself off because you just asked for background. But that's why I really enjoy what I'm doing. It's like, yeah, we're talking numbers, but are we really just talking numbers? Come on.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for sharing all that because, yes, as you and I said, like storytelling is so important and money can go really deep for some people. And I think it's more of an internal issue than a lot of us realize.
Yeah.
And I know I'm on my own money journey and there's a lot of internal things that I need to work on. But I also see it as, like you said, being able to tell our own story, but figure out what that story is. So is that something that you help your clients with? Like you said, I know you do all of the accounting side and the bookkeeping and all the
Yeah.
things, but like, can you help your clients figure out what their money story is and then how that plays into them building their business?
Yes, you took a lot of really cool pieces out of what I shared and very insightfully outlined what we call the money story pillars. So, the Money Storyteller Method has three pillars: money story, money systems, and then money map. And so, all of the bookkeeping, the FinOps, the tax strategy, that's all systems, right? Is your money organized? Is it smartly handled? Are you communicating with it? Is it being put in environments where it's going to thrive? That's all that data stuff. But it starts with that first pillar, which is the story, which, as you said, is the internal thoughts, ideas, beliefs, attitudes that we have about money, because that affects how we use it. And I think that we fundamentally fail our business leaders, our business owners, the decision makers in business, because they are underdeveloped in their money story. They're not aware. They've never consciously sat down to outline, this is how I was taught money worked. And so this is how, because most of us actually weren't taught how money works, not like formally. That's the first problem, is that we pick it up by just observing. And so we really truly learn how money and all the money systems we live under work, quote unquote, from a very, very young age by observing our parents, by observing our friends. And so all the ways that we're also kind of like learning by observing, like how we are in relationship with other people. That is also how we are in relationship with our money. And so we have to get clear on what are those stories? What are the significant events in your life that are informing your attitudes and beliefs about money? Because then that can informs how you react to it. And if we don't allow space for your natural first reaction to it, you're going to not be able to engage any of the better self about creativity or strategic planning. You have to get clear on that first. And once you're clear on how I interact with money, you can then be clear on the future vision. How do I want my money story to be different, both in the amount of money I'm making and the way that I'm working, but also in my experience? So yeah, that's absolutely the first part of our methodology, is like, we have to start here. This is where the conversation needs to begin, because we need that clear vision and understanding of how money works in your life and where you want it to go, where you want your life to go. Then we can combine it with all of the data and from this money system pillar. And then I can build the money map, because we know what direction to point you in. We know how to structure the data to make sense in your financial reports. And that's what money mapping is. It's just a very fun way of describing, these are the financial dashboards, your profit and loss reports, your revenue goals, your spending plan, your KPI success metrics in your business.
Two thoughts I have from that is that I could go off on a tangent all day long because I had four little kids. And with me starting, both my husband and I owning businesses, and then also like diving into our own money stories, And it's hard to see, like, I had a pretty normal childhood growing up. There was no big sticking points, but also, like you said, in schools, we're not really taught about money, how to use it, how to save it, how to invest it, how to spend it, right? We're just learning as we go. And that needs to be started at a younger age. And so now I'm like terrified. Like, I want to make sure I am teaching my boys the right principles about money and how to think about it, how to use it, how to save it. And so that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But I wanted to like say yes to that when you were talking about it because I think it's so important. And especially here in the US, like it needs to be integrated into our schools and into the kids' education. But going back to what you said is you start when you work with your clients, you start with their money story to figure it out, right? Do you have specific questions or prompts or things that you start asking them to really uncover maybe if they're having blocks in their business or like things are working, but they still don't feel like they are building wealth or building revenue?
The short answer is yes. I have an exercise that I take people through that I call the money autobiography, right? I mean, we're storytellers, so let's get clear on your autobiography. I want to understand your character backstory. Because your character backstory is always your character backstory. This is one of the things I find frustrating about a lot of coaching language. And you will really appreciate this both as somebody who works with coaching and as a copywriter, right? I think that sometimes we're left with this impression that we're just going to overcome our blocks. We're going to like solve it and then it's going to be handled and it's never going to come back up for us. And your character backstory never stops being your character backstory. In behavioral psychology, they actually call it threat rigidity. And that is the idea that the first way you learned to do something is the default way you do it under stress. So if your parents, for example, handled a financial upheaval in the family by just working harder, right? And now I don't mean to give you, but you mentioned, oh, we're both self-employed, your husband and I, and you've got your 4 young boys. Well, unintentionally, they may watch you like, oh, wow, okay, like we really have to close a gap. So mom's just going to like send out more pitches. She's going to work a couple late nights and book a couple extra calls more than she normally would to close that gap. That's a smart, strategic, healthy, good decision. But internally, a child who's watching that may not get it, right? And so they may just be like, well, you just work harder. You just work harder, right? That may be the first way they were taught to do it without anyone actually teaching, right? So the threat rigidity sets in, you get under stress. And every time you up level in your business, every time you want to do something new in your business, you're under stress. Unfamiliar circumstances are inherently stressful. So we are constantly running a loop of, I'm doing something new and different. I want to do more than what I've done before. I'm now under stress. That's why we all need coaching. That's why running a business is more like being a high performance athlete, right? It's all about that resilience. It's all about staying in the game. Well, to me, it's also about that money story is going to come back up. So we need clarity on what it is. So that way, when it starts resurfacing, I just recognize that it's happening. Hey, old friend, I knew you would be here. Thank you. My overworking like instinct. I'm going to leave space for you, but I'm going to do something different. So to go back to what questions do I ask? I think it deserves a really comprehensive look. But the first question you can ask yourself, and the way that you can start jotting this down at home, is understanding that every significant life event has a financial consequence. Every single one, positive and negative. You get married, fantastic news, congratulations. The average wedding in America is $27,000. So how did you handle that?
Which is mind blowing to me. But
Mind blowing. Crazy, right? Well, and we keep talking about our kids. You had a baby. Amazing. How's your health insurance? You ready? Kids are
right?
expensive. You ready? Um, your parents are laid off. You tell them, hey, we can't afford that, or we're not made of money, or the first time you take a big overseas vacation, how does that feel? Every significant life event has a financial consequence. So, what are those events? Just start brainstorming and ideating on that for yourself and just sort of sketch the outline and make that first draft of your money autobiography. And then look for patterns. When you have more than one event outlined, you can kind of see, oh, there's actually more of a recurring thing than I realized. Where am I seeing this story happening over and over in my own business? that alone, just identifying the pattern can provide a lot of clarity. I can offer a story if it's helpful. I mean, we've been talking about stories, but to help illustrate that, would that be helpful?
I
Yeah.
love stories.
Great.
So
Yeah. I'll share mine because this work is pretty intimate, right? So, all right, I'll put myself on the line for this. Like, I'm asking you some pretty tough questions. I happen to be the exact right age that my parents, who worked in tech, I grew up through the dot-com bubble burst in the 90s and the financial downturn in 28 or in 2008. So there was multiple periods when one or both of my parents were unemployed. And so they had high paying tech jobs and then there was nothing. And that went up and down and up and down. So I am a super saver. I am really good at saving. I'm really good at investing because that next emergency is always around the corner. So it's both my superpower and it means that I am hesitant as a business owner to deploy my resources when it would be easy to fix something because the next emergency is always coming. And so I'm always ready and waiting for the next emergency. But inadvertently, and now I've been in business 8 years, so I've been able to, again, I have more patterns to look at. Inadvertently, there are times when I could have jumped in to just like deploy some dollars or deploy some team members or deploy some of my own time to fix something. And it would have been a much smaller fix than when I actually started to take action on it. Well, it wasn't a true emergency yet. Well, let's wait and see. So yeah, I learned from a young age, there's always another emergency. And then as an adult, I unintentionally started to play out. Yeah, there's always another emergency because girl, you could just like handle some things a little bit sooner. You don't have to suffer until it's really, really, really unbearable before you start to take action. That's not required. That's one of the ways that would be a pattern. I have hundreds and hundreds of examples like that. There's very few money stories, but the way that they're uniquely flavored is always so much fun. So I really encourage anyone listening, like do that money autobiography exercise. Like, what are those financial events in your life that maybe are still affecting the behavior today?
Hmm. Okay. That's really interesting. I work so well through story. Like anytime someone shares an example, it gives me those ahas. And I'm laughing because I'm like the total opposite of you, where I just like I am a terrible saver. And if I see something that I want, I just get it, which
I love. There's so much joy in that. You enjoy things so well.
oh yes, but then I'm like also victim to shiny object syndrome in my business. And now there's like all these things. And which one is, so
You're
maybe.
over invested, right? Yeah. Now you're doing too much. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm trying to think of where we want to take this because I think it could go a few different ways. But let's go back and talk about, making money a teammate in your business. Because I know that's something that you talk about and we've shared before, and it really helped me. But how can we look at money as a team player in our business? What does that look like for either someone like you who just saves and never like doesn't make that investment, or someone like me that like just invest, but doesn't actually then has too many things going on.
Beautiful question. So when I talk about making money a teammate, it comes from the storyteller training. So Joseph Campbell is a brilliant man who identified something called the hero's journey. And this is the framework that all myths and all cultures sort of follows. This is the basic story framework. And so if we're going to understand making money a teammate, this is about assigning money the most effective role within our stories. Because money could do a lot of different things for us, but we want it to be the most effective for what we want. And we're all business owners, so this is kind of the idea that we want to follow. The two roles that money could have following the hero's journey, where it's just less effective, is it could be the villain of the story. So it could be we're unintentionally fighting money off. And when you're making money your villain, and when I talk about this is how are you thinking about money? How are you internalizing how money works? Making money a villain is sometimes very obvious where, well, rich people are evil. I'm not doing it for the money. I already have enough, so I'm happy at this level, or I'm just happy to do the work. My competitors are just going to undercharge, or my clients will never pay that. I don't want to make a lot of money because like the IRS is just going to take it all anyway. You're making money the bad thing within this story. So you're unintentionally like fighting it away from you. When in reality, having more money could make you better at your job or could make you better at achieving the impact or the change that you really want to have. This also can be less obvious. Sometimes it's not overtly about money, but sometimes it's indirectly about money. I find that there's a money as villain story whenever I'm working with somebody who is giving away their power. They're really frustrated. There's an external system that is to blame or that is slowing them down or that's getting in the way. Now, I do want to pause whenever I talk about money as villain because I want to acknowledge that there are real, legitimate, systemic reasons that different groups of people have different money or different opportunity or access to money. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the fact that there are difficult things that are going to happen in life that will make financial resources feel harder. What I'm talking about is the way we're reacting to those things. Are you reacting in a way that is helping you feel power and reduce that stress response so you can take aligned action? Or are you reacting in ways that's going to get you stuck in that money story pattern you don't want to keep repeating? So money as villain is money is the problem. By having more money, it means I'm going to be greedy or bad or selfish or less valuable, or I need, there's all sorts of stories there, but that's the money as villain. The other thing that it could be is money as treasure, which treasure in a story is what you win at the end. Sometimes stories are literally about treasure. Ocean's 11, very famously, you win millions of dollars when you rob the casino, right? But in our business story, the treasure should be the change that we want to see, the impact that our work has. It shouldn't be about getting the money. So when money as treasure starts happening, it means we're pushing off our success because we're not ready, we're not smart enough, we haven't planned enough, we haven't worked hard enough, we haven't figured something out. There's opportunity right now we could be taking advantage of, but instead we're feeling not enough or not yet, or I will be ready when. That's money as treasure thoughts. And so if we don't want to wait until the very end of our story for money, because again, if money is our treasure and it comes only at the end, I don't want to live a life or business without money. That sounds really hard. Let's get money right now, right? Money should be in the story right now. Not at the end, it should be right now. And we don't want money to be the villain of the story. I don't want to fight money off. Because money is not evil. It's neutral. We assign, right? We're talking about storytelling. We assign values to it. So then what does money do in a story where it's more effective? And that's what I call making money the teammate. Money should come in when you're like winning your allies and doing your training and getting your magic sword, right? Money's in the montage scene of like Avengers Assemble. This is where money should live. Money should be a teammate with a very clear job to do to go and defeat the real villain of the story, which is whatever your business is trying to solve, and win the real treasure, which is the impact or the change that your work has. So mine, for example, is I'm truly fighting poverty. I'm helping more people be rich by understanding money and making really profitable businesses. I'm helping more families feel good. I'm helping people create jobs. That's a priceless treasure. My villain is then poverty and misunderstanding. And so money in my business needs jobs that go out and do that. Right. So I've built team members to help me scale. I've built other types of offers so that I can get more of my leadership out there so more people can get on board with this method. So that's what you need to think about for your business is what job are you giving money so money can go out and work hard on your behalf? Because money is tireless. It's not a real person, so it will never exhaust itself. It also makes more of itself. When invested right, money turns into more money. You see this in the stock market with all of the compound interest. Compound interest is a very, very, very powerful force. I don't know how we're doing on time. I'm like, oh my God, I can start ranting about investing, but I'm like, I'll bring myself in a little bit. But this is what we do even in our business. When you buy us into the stock market, you're buying a little tiny piece of a business. We own 100% of a business right now. So what return is your investment in this business giving you? And that right there is the answer to your other question of like, what helps somebody who's a really big spender or somebody who's afraid to spend to deploy their money in a way that makes it a teammate? Assign money a really clear job and tell money, okay, money, if you go do this job, this is the return I'm expecting to see. And then follow up with your money. Get into your bookkeeping. Look at your numbers. To ask money, did you come back in the way I expected you to? Yes or no, you still get really good information about a cause and effect and a way to drive more money forward. So for my big spenders, for my over investors, for my shiny object people, we've all been there, right? I can be that person too. When you buy something, pause and ask yourself, one, about cash flow, and then ask yourself, what is the return on this investment? Why am I saying yes to this? Is it a new skill? Is it access to a new community or opportunities I don't have? Is it for fun? So what's the return? And then we need to work backwards onto, okay, great. So me, for example, I do really well in group programs, hanging out with other business owners because I just love to pour into people and I know that it pours back. I'm very generous in the way I spend time, but I am that way strategically is that if I have the right type of business community where they're asking the right type of questions and I can come in and really help people, it often leads to, hey, I really liked what you said. Can I ask more about your services? Since I know that there's that type of ROI, I don't buy into communities unless I can expect a 10x on my investment. I want to see a 10 times return on this type of money for myself. And that's me personally, my own personal strategies and paying attention to my pattern and my numbers. But then I know, like, okay, this community is a $20,000 investment. Is this the type of place where I'm going to make $200,000 just from being with these people in either new clients or referrals? Yes, it's an easy spend. Let's go for it, even though it's a $20,000 investment. So that's that strategic thinking of like, okay, what is the ROI, right? And if the ROI is just to have fun or to learn a new skill, what does the skill get me? What is the cause and effect attitude there? If it's just to have fun, okay, then just have fun with it and stop attaching ROI. And then purely it's just, okay, if I've got the cash flow, I've got the cash flow.
I think it's really helpful just stopping and looking at what's the ROI. And like you said, especially in programs and communities, because I think that's really it. Finding different communities, finding different groups to be in or have our own. And so, what's that ROI of being a part of it? I know in the beginning, I went to every networking event, joined every community, but then I spent so much time doing things that like didn't have any return. So
Yeah.
I pulled back and really was able to realize, okay, what makes the most sense? Where am I actually helping people, getting clients? Like, what makes the most sense for me to show up? Because time is money, right?
Yeah.
And that's important. But then also, when we're growing our own communities, we have to be able to tell that story to show the women or the people we want to join our community what their ROI is. So they're willing to make
Yes.
that investment.
Yes.
So I think your example can help in both, whether we're growing our own communities or looking at where to make our investments.
Well, and especially with somebody who's leading a community, I think there's an instinct to do more, to deliver more, to keep making more, to keep looking at it. And I find that some of the most successful communities are often very simple because A, it's clear ROI for the clients, but it is also helping the business owner. It's like, okay, the 80-20 rule applies in everything. So what 20% of the things you're delivering are giving people 80% of the results? And then just stop doing everything else. Literally just stop doing it. That's how you become more profitable. When you're looking at, okay, because like, okay, how do I make money a teammate? How do I even start measuring ROI? The first thing I want you to do is just sit down and write out, what do I spend my time on in my business? Or what is my team spending time on in my business? That's one column of like a list. The second column of a list is write down where are our biggest wins. And then see if you can identify which of these things are. So my example about a community that came from doing that of like, hey, my best referral partners or my best clients or my biggest client or the biggest podcast interview I landed or the biggest PR, like that actually all came from a specific Facebook group back in the day when Facebook groups were like the biggest thing to do in business. And I realized it was me being in these Facebook groups that was having more ROI than anything I was doing on social media for any of the other types of ways of being visible. So I literally stopped doing it. I just cut it out. And then my business exploded because I wasn't wasting time and energy and attention where I personally don't get the type of return. And I can do that with any process in my business. So if for community people, it's how, not just how am I acquiring clients, but how are they retained and how are they spending more, right? Because a community can be a beautiful backbone to a business, but how am I getting them into bigger offers, more profitable offers, long-term return for this client acquisition, right? Those are all the types of ROI questions and figuring out who are our best clients, our most engaged clients, our longest lasting clients. What do they like? How did we find them? Why do they love us? That's that ROI discussion there. You can just stop doing all the other things that aren't those, that probably very, very surprisingly short list if you actually sit down and really work the numbers. So that's kind of the inroad of making money a teammate.
Yes. And I love that 80/20. So I'm actually rereading the book 10x is easier than 2x.
Heck yeah.
And I read it once, but you can read something, but you have to put it in action to actually like make it work. And so
Yeah.
now I'm rereading it with my little happy writer book club that we have. But it's so important. Like we're always as entrepreneurs doing so much and probably way more than we need to, or over delivering, but it's the 20% that's actually creating those results. So,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you said, just sitting down, making that list. And I have been with all of my clients lately, it's like, let's take it back to simple and easy. It doesn't mean that it's not powerful and still impactful. But when there's so much going on in our world, in our lives. Like, how can we take things that we are doing, make it simple, easy, focused? Our clients are getting way better results that way. Right. And so it's just, I don't know. Lately, I'm all about taking it back to simplicity, the power of one, and just really going in strong to make that impact for others because there's a lot happening in our world today. And the more that we see those shiny objects or all the things, it's easy to get distracted.
Yeah. And one thing I think that a lot of people don't see about business planning, because I have the great privilege of actually seeing how people make their money because I am the accountant, because we are the bookkeeping team. If you have solved one thing really well, you truly only need to keep doing that. So it's not about doing more or doing differently or solving every problem that your client has. It's about, if I can do this one thing better than anybody, then what is my next offer that continues to do that one
Mhm.
thing? So an example could be, I am really good at coaching people in this particular topic, right? And I do it one on one, and I'm going to repackage it into a framework that I can turn into a course, or repackage it into a framework that can do a community. And it's like, oh, well, my course does this thing and my group does this thing. And then I think, no, 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 no. They all do the same thing. They all do the same thing. It's the same content because that's the best content. And different buyers will want different content, and the same person may want all of it because they like it so much. And as you said, you're rereading the same book. So people want this, they need the same thing over and over. And so you don't actually have to figure out or solve or do anything else. If you've got it, it's just about the delivery and about the connection and about getting it in the hands of the right people. Now, sometimes it is about solving a new thing in a creative way. So, like my own business, I help people master a new perspective on money so that they can use it better. So I have a whole fractional financial team, and we offer bookkeeping and taxes and payroll management and the coaching stuff. But it all solves that core of, I am giving you the data and organization and structure to your money. And different businesses need different expertise to pull that off. But it's all driving you towards, this is the methodology we use. And I'm just bringing in the team to deliver that methodology better in these different areas. But it's the one thing, right? We only do the one thing, truly at its core. So I 100% agree with that. And I think that sometimes people think simple and it doesn't feel like that can scale. And I would actually say most of the people I know who are making multi-seven figures are actually surprisingly simple. Their offer is always the same thing. It's the one channel. They've nailed their channel of acquisition. They've got one offer, and it just is the same thing from there until they hit that $1 million mark. Truly.
I love that example because having that one problem not only makes it stronger for the people you're trying to serve and yourself and your team, but it makes it a heck of a lot easier to share that message and get more people into it, right? It goes back to what I'm doing. And I try so hard to tell my clients, like, we need to focus on one problem, one thing that you solve. Yes, it will make a ripple effect and you'll solve all these other things. But when we start putting all the other things into the messaging, it becomes watered down and then it doesn't work like it should.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so you said you're helping people in numerous ways, but it goes back to that one problem that you're solving.
Yeah, it feels really limiting, which is and I've struggled with that, is like, I don't want to limit myself and we can do all these things. And it's like, really, truly, may, you can hear like in my voice, it's like, how do I distill this? Because I have been that person. I've been that person, and I see it over and over. Giving money a job is the same as giving your business a job, giving your work a job. Solve that job. And that's scalable. Doing more is going to make you less profitable. You want to be well paid, work less, do less. And you're going to help more people, and you're going to actually have better impact and more satisfaction in your work. And I think that's again, to go back to that money story. But if I can't do it all and I can't show off all these different sides of me and I can't be all these things to all these people, girl, that's not why you're valuable. And
Mm.
you don't have to be all those things in every context all the time. Like, we love what we do. I really love what I do, but it is still a job. It's okay to treat it like a job. Let's make good money off of this and get a lot more impact out of it. I think, obviously, I don't know. I wasn't expecting to go into that today, but I really, really, truly believe this.
Yes, that's perfect. And I think it's a perfect segue to, I always like to end our conversations with how you define success now, because we get to define what success looks like to us. And so often I think people are chasing different versions of success of what other people are doing. And so I always like to ask, how do you define success now?
Yeah. Unsurprisingly, my definition is tied to money. Um,
How
but
surprising.
yeah, of course, yeah. But I love Jen Sincero's "You Are a Badass at Making Money." It's a book, and in that book, she has a definition of rich that I think just nails it, which is having, and paraphrasing, but it's having all of the financial means you need to have all of the experiences you need to be your most authentic self. That to me is success. Is I know who I am and what I like doing. I know what experiences I want to have with my family. And so I work backwards from that to figure out then how much I need to pay myself, how I need to structure my time, what systems I need in my business to allow me that time freedom. I add all that together. I layer on the amount of taxes I pay on top of that. And I now have my break even and my revenue plan. That's success to me, is like, okay, great. Well, we keep doing more and making more impact with our work, but it is about like that lived experience of and the financial means to have it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Catherine, for sharing all of that. I know it was super helpful for me, so I'm sure it was for our listeners. But I will have your links, all the things down in the show notes. But if people want to work further with you, where can they find you?
Absolutely. You can always find me on my website, katherinepomerantz.com. There's a link there to book a call if you're interested in exploring what it's like to work with my strategic tax or FinOps team. But I also have a free gift for you guys. We had talked about doing a deep dive on that money autobiography. I have a money autobiography workbook. I'd love for you guys, if you want, to go grab that download. And that is just, oh gosh. Oh, heavens to Betsy. I did the link and I can't remember the link.
It'll be in the show notes. We're
It'll be
good.
in the show notes. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it'll be in the show notes. So click on that for everyone. I thank you so much. But it is my gift to you guys. It's absolutely free, and it walks you through some of those questions to do that exact exploration that we were talking about earlier.
Well, I can't wait to dig in. Thank you again, Catherine. It was so fun talking with you.